Hi, my name is Alexandra Gomez, and today I'm going to walk you through a presentation on Newsela, which is an amazing online reading resource program that teachers and students across the country are using every day. Don't judge a book by its cover, because you still have to read it. We see in the country that there is a need for literacy, and the Common Core state standards argue that students need opportunities to stretch their reading abilities, but also to experience the satisfaction and pleasure of easy, fluent reading. Fluent reading skills and reading literacy are foundational skills all students need to develop, and students need access to quality reading materials that are interesting, challenging, and thought-provoking. But with that, we see that there is a huge divide in the amount of nonfiction and informational texts our students are offered as compared to narrative and fictional texts that they read. Malik and Horsey in 2013 argue that informational texts, such as those used in history and science, facilitate students' reading development, help shape their understanding of the world, and build their habits of inquiry. We want students to be reading information that is connected to everyday life, that gives them a good amount of information to store in their prior knowledge banks, and information that they can use to connect to new information they're encountering and to make relationships with. What we see, though, is that there is a great divide and imbalance in the amount of nonfiction and fictional texts our students have access to. Most elementary classrooms are filled with nonfiction texts. Districts tend to have a lack of funds across all grade levels to purchase quality and interesting nonfiction texts other than required textbooks. Although textbooks do have quality information that students need to read, it's not necessarily engaging for them, and it's not motivating. A lot of times students see reading a textbook as chore work or busy work because it's homework. Also, districts and teachers are faced with the impossible task of finding accurate and reliable reading materials about current events in the world. Although, let's say, things like Time Magazine, the Washington Post offer great articles on current events, often they're far and above the reading levels of our young readers, middle school readers, and even high school readers who are reading below reading level. So that brings us to Newsela and the conception of Newsela. In New Jersey, in the Middleton Township School District, they found that many of their students from K through 12th were struggling when it came to being interested in and reading informational and nonfiction texts. They also realized that they had a scarce amount of resources when it came to nonfiction texts. Their district did not have the money to purchase enough books for the 12 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, and 2 high schools they had in their district. And they weren't finding enough reliable reading level online resources. So some of the questions they asked were, how do we as educators provide relevant nonfiction reading materials that don't put our students to sleep? How can we provide grade level content to students who are reading below their grade level? And how can we support teachers who have classes full of students with differing reading levels or who are in special education classes? That's where Newsela comes into play. Newsela is this amazing reading resource online that provides grade level reading articles based on a student's Lexile score. The articles can be adapted for students reading from the 2nd grade reading level to the 12th grade reading level. It offers subject on history, science, the arts, religion. You can get current event news articles based off of the subjects of money, science, health, and sports. And you can rely on reliable sources that they're pulling this information from, such as the Washington Post, the History Channel, and procon.org. Teachers can search for articles that meet the California Common Core state standards, which is important because there's such a push to make sure that everything we're doing in the classroom is connecting to those standards. If you have a class of English language learners, you can find quality reading level articles and information in Spanish for our students. So not only can they read an article at their reading level in Spanish, but they can read the same article in English, and you can reinforce their reading skills. It allows students to take tests or to answer short writing prompts to test for reading comprehension. You also have the option of using Newsela Pro, which is a paid service that allows students to follow student progress and change in student Lexile scores. You can see it across your classroom or just with individual students. So we're going to do a tour of Newsela. I felt that was the best way to show everybody its amazing capabilities. So this is Newsela's interface. If you ever log in, you'll see. Up here, you'll see that we have our library, and we can search for an article essentially on any topic: science and math, geography, U.S. history. We can look for primary sources if we're in a history class, biographies on important figures in history. We can look up famous speeches and have them adapted for our students' reading level so that they're still able to understand the content. It might not be in the words that they were written in, but they're still understanding what that speech was about. We can look for current events, issues that are happening worldwide, or we can even narrow that search down and look for events that are happening within our own state. We can find articles on specific careers if you're trying to get your children to start thinking about the future and what their interests are. In the news category, we have an array of subjects that we can search. Health, if you want to find a good health article for your students to read. If you have students in your classroom who you are just wanting to read a current event and you know they like sports, connect to your students' interests. If you are wanting to incorporate more about the arts, you can find articles on the arts. So first we're going to go into our library. We're going to search for an article in science and math. Now over here, a teacher can narrow their choices down. I'm looking for an article at the 6th grade level. I would like it to meet the Acre standards R1 and R2, which are what the text says and central ideas. And I'd also like it to be in English. Oh, right here, English. So let's go with so many options to choose from. Right here, meet these cephalopod creatures. So there's a couple of things. I'm actually going to backtrack just a little. Now you'll notice there are little icons under each of the articles. This little light bulb will tell you the standards that the article is connected to. This will tell you that there are power words or that there are also quizzes and activities connected to this article. And this would tell you that the reading level that it maxes out at is a 6th grade reading level. So this is really awesome because right here, this little area, max, the max is the 6th grade reading level. But let's say you have a student in 6th grade who's actually reading at a 4th grade reading level. You can change the Lexile scores and it'll actually now give you the same article, but it has been adapted by Newsela staff writer to fall and meet the 4th grade reading level requirements essentially. And it has awesome things for your students. But one thing I also want to show, I don't know if this one has it. It doesn't. Also, too, though, with many of the articles, the title will change to also reflect the reading level. Now, there are some great features in each of these reading activities, and it also gives teachers some great resources. So with the Pro version, which is what I have, you can have focus words. And they suggest specific focus words, and each article will have one focus word. This is a 5-minute activity you can spend with your students. And in each grade level, they offer focus words. So in grade 2, you can your focus word would be extend. And here are some questions you can ask to facilitate thought about that focus word. Grade 6, the word would be decline. Here are some questions that you and your students can talk about to facilitate some thought about the word decline. There's also something known as a sticky note walk, and it is a 20-minute activity, and this has to do with the 5 power words that are included in this article, which we'll go over. And it's just building student vocabulary as they're reading. Now, power words are all going to be underlined in green, and these are words that the Newsela staff believe are good words that at that reading level, which is, we're going over the 4th grade reading level, all 4th graders should know. The first one is creatures. And if a student clicks on that power word, they can hear the word pronounced, and they will also be given a definition. At this time, you can have students have a pen and paper, and they can be writing down the words that they're learning about. Newsela also has open activities. So here are some of the power words. Which word goes with copy? They would have to answer this question. There are 10 questions. They would be scored, and you would get all of this information sent to your binder for whatever class. I have one class, Miss Alex's class, and you would get all the information based on the tests that they're taking. Another activity that they have is a writing prompt. And what's amazing is that this changes with the reading level. So if we were to max out, you would see that this would be the question for that specific reading level. But if we go to a lower reading level, the questions, I don't know if it would, no, the questions for the quizzes, would change. So here is the question for grade 2, Anchor 1, standard, what the text says. The same question would be reworded at a different grade level to meet that reading level comprehension. And just real quickly, in the teacher's binder, I assigned this article right here, Koalas Chill Out in Shady Trees, to some of my Mod Severe students. It was an average reading level of 3rd grade. 3 out of 4 students viewed it. The average time spent here was about 4 minutes, and the average score was about 38%. I didn't have any writing tests or total or annotations. But I really want to advocate for Newsela. I think it's an amazing program, and I know it holds value. I'm kind of still in the pilot stage with my classroom, but I know that my students are going to get quality information that just isn't really. It's the information that they're receiving here is really going to expand their worldview, and it's really going to broaden their reading comprehension skills. And I can find things that interest them. Not many of my students technically like reading because it is a chore to them. They'd much rather be doing a fun activity, but there is importance in teaching our students how to read and in teaching them to appreciate really rich reading material. And Newsela does that beautifully, and they give teachers and students so many options. They open so many doors into the world and provide so many great worldviews and opportunities for our students to build prior knowledge banks and to make connections. I hope you all really enjoyed this presentation. If you have any questions about Newsela, I'm very much open to having a discussion with you, whether it's via email, and sort of giving you more information if you would like it. I would also suggest going and talking to somebody in your district and maybe showing them this site and seeing if they'd be willing to do a pilot program for you and your students and getting you guys some better resources in the classroom.